Yo, what's going on, people?
Back again.
You know what it is, Raps on TV, here to start talking about boxing. It feels good to start having a few more bouts, a few more fixtures to look forward to. But I'm here as always with the main man, Sam. How you doing, sir?
I'm all good, bro. Good to be back. Good to be here again. There's a lot more boxing to talk about now. So obviously, a few things in the pipeline for the viewers and that. So obviously we've got. I wish I could say it all, man, but we've got to keep things wrapped and low key as we do, and then go from there. But no, man, it was a good weekend of boxing. To be fair, decent. Things are heating up overseas as well, so interesting, man.
Man, no, definitely. And I think from a card perspective, there's quite a bit taking place. So you've got to look at it. You've had the Matchroom Fight camp, which was last weekend, and I think it was good energy around that. The Jonas
100%.
fight, you look at that performance. I think for Jonas and Harper, I thought they gave themselves, a tremendous amount of credit.
100%.
You got William Smith as well. So I think overall that was a good look. And then obviously there was news this week of Fury saying he wants to have the Wilder fight in December this year. So if that takes place, that's going to be very interesting.
It needs to take place this year.
Dissect.
Yeah, Dylan Whyte's recent interview with Sky after the recent news coming out from Mauricio Solomon's camp about him being mandatory, and there's no ifs or maybes or whatever, but he is the challenger. To be honest, looking back at it, I still find it quite bizarre how Brazil got a title shot before he did. Wouldn't you agree? I find that quite crazy how, Brazil lost to Joshua more recently than he'd lost to Joshua, and was still able to kind of get the opportunity, which to me is absolutely absurd.
But not really when you look at it on the political sense. You got to look at it political lines. For sure, you're gonna say that really PBC are gonna look after Brazil and get his man a shot ahead of.
From PBC standpoint, yes, but ultimately, as a body, as a governing body, you have to do what's right by the people that are paying your fees, right? And ultimately, those fees for some time, probably longer than Brazil's had to pay for them. So ultimately, they should prioritize the ranking and who's the right people there for, doing what they're doing. But ultimately, it's said now, it's been declared. So now, Dylan Whyte's just got to get business done. That's the only thing that could be a fuck up for him personally.
But do you see any hiccups? Because I'm presuming you're talking about Povetkin. Do you see any hiccups?
No, bro. He's got to, but there's more pressure on him now. There's more pressure because you're finally at the finish line in terms of getting your world title shot. You can finally relax and take a breather and really focus on your strength and conditioning and technicality instead of being forced to get into fights. I know he says he likes the fights, but ultimately, no one's liking he likes those fights, but his end goal is to get the world title. And currently, he's proved himself as being rough and tough and being able to mix it in with the best. So, what more is there to prove besides getting that world title shot? And ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a different type of a safe fight in Dylan Whyte. But he's looking in unbelievable shape in Portugal, I must say. Them guys down there, David Hayes' old trainer Ruben, in the camp down there are really making.
Xavier, I know he works his guys.
Xavier, John Harden Jr., all those guys are looking.
They even had Tiny Temper in there, I think, during the camp.
Yeah, because David Hayes got good affiliate. David Hayes' trainer Ruben's got affiliations with Tiny Temper and those guys. So they took a trip out on the PJ to Portugal, and he decided to get some rounds in and some training. So John Ryder's out there. Portugal's becoming a real stable, man.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you got the weather. So the guys can train out there. The food is good, and it seems like from a COVID perspective, there hasn't been much too much of an issue. So obviously, we know the story of how they got out there and sort of like kind of escaping before there was lockdown in the UK. But onto that though, I mean, again, and I don't want to flip it, but we're talking boxing as we do.
Talk to me.
Like, do you think that Dylan Whyte is gonna fight Fury before Joshua? If Fury beats Wilder, whenever that fight date gets announced,
possibly, it wouldn't surprise me again because money talks at the end of the day. I reckon Dylan Whyte, even though he'll kick up a fuss, I reckon he'll take some side money. I wouldn't mind taking some side money just for being there and just waiting my time.
Of course you wouldn't.
Like, if you offered me, you got to see it from an economical standpoint. If you're offering him half of a purse that he normally gets of him fighting for just sitting there waiting, or a full purse because
I
the
mean, that's not going to be happening, because obviously you got to look at it with the current, just again, financially, a lot of things going to be off balance just because of the current situation. So I can't see him getting a huge purse. Realistically, I think it's going to be how the WBC enforce it. I think it's going to be what cards he plays as well, because
I reckon they can get an exemption, though.
Say again?
I reckon they can get an exemption, G.
Of course they will. If all belts are on the line and you're talking about Joshua versus Fury or Fury versus Joshua, all belts on the line, of course. Dillian Whyte, of course they're going to get not even an exemption. All parties will come to the table in an agreement. Maybe from his order, and this is Dillian Whyte, maybe his perspective, he would now get to face the winner after the rematch or whatever. But yeah, I think if I was him, I think he has to be careful how he maneuvers at the moment. I do think, from a legal standpoint, there's only so much threatening or so much like promising that you can do. You've got to kind of just look at the scenario and try to be a bit logical about it.
So what do you, but my money is, like, if we're putting the odds on it, my money is either AJ fights Tuck Fury before on a special exemption, and Marissa signs it off, or he takes some side money. I just can't see the February fight happening, because December, January, February, you're supposed to fight then, or is it fight then or come to an agreement? Because it's still kind of a grey area. We don't know the specifics. Mauricio,
that could be done. Yeah, wording is important. That's a great point that you make.
Mauricio Solomon's the kind of guy that plays everything close to his chest and doesn't like talking to the media. They've come out and said by February 2021, right? That means they need to have an agreement in principle before it goes to purse bids or whatever. That I think is more on that lane. If they're saying that they need to fight within February 2021, that's unrealistic. And I think Mauricio knows that. I think it's more on they need to have an agreement in principle that they're set to fight within these terms, all being well. But if there's a special exemption that comes in, and we've seen Eddie Hearn, we've seen Frank Warren apply for special exemptions with certain fighters. I think Eddie Hearn did it, I recall, with Anthony Joshua, to try and get an exemption for the Wilder fight. I think he's had it approved, or I think he's spoken about it or touched on it, to get IBF, because the IBF were quite adamant that he needed to fight for his belt, otherwise he would vacate it. But also, no, it was beg your pardon. It was Joseph Parker. So he could get that belt, he needed to get a special exemption against Pulev to fight Joseph Parker. And I think the IBF they granted it, because they fought. So I think something like that would happen. And if Dillian Whyte says, look, if we still have that agreement that I am the next person outside Joshua and Tyson Fury to have the fight, I don't see there being a big problem. But ultimately, I don't know if there might be a belt strip, so someone's belt could go, or it's all up in the air right now, especially with COVID in place, and people and governing bodies want to get themselves out there and do what they need to do. So we'll look and see how it's going to progress. I'm interested to see how Dylan boxes post the split of Mark Tibbs, because Mark Tibbs, if you listen to him and see him, he was a very influential character to Team Dylan, and it seemed like they ended quite sour. From the I don't know, what do you make of it?
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, definitely, if we're going to talk about it from Tibbs's perspective, it seems like he's not too happy, or he's not best pleased. I think there was maybe a change in the regime. Things that he was asked to do, things that he thought he should do. I mean, there's a couple of interviews, right, that got put up and taken down, and then I think he subsequently put it up on his own channel. So, yeah, for me, I like Xavier. I think he's an intelligent coach. The name kind of suggests that he thinks that as well, which is good. Confidence in the game. I think if you've ever spoken to him, you can see that he is one of the students of the game. I'm not saying that he's been taught by the best, but he studies fighters, strategies. again, it's not the first time he's worked with Dillian Whyte, so he has been around Dillian Whyte for a little bit. So he knows him as a person. And I think he's also got to take confidence that actually Dillian Whyte came to his gym and kind of suggested that, look, I want you to work with me a bit more. So Dillian's also comfortable with him. And I think that's also important for a fighter. So I'm looking forward to see it. I think Povetkin's probably, if I'm going to be honest, I think for both of them, it's a great opponent because I think, you know, Javier can maybe push Dillian Whyte a little bit more just because, you know, Povetkin's stamina may not be at its highest. But then I guess also the way I see Xavier as a coach, he likes his fighters to kind of like deliver powerful punches. That he likes to see them land big shots. You look at guys like Yusuf Kamari, you look at the little bit of work he's done with Hardin Jr. You look at
Hardin Jr.'s game's completely changed now.
So you look at Hardin, Kate Crosby as well. So for me, I think I look forward to kind of seeing what they do to and the environment. It's the first, so I think it's a good opportunity for him. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Xavier, because he's got quite good affiliation with us. So shout out to Xavier with the Raps camp. But no, I didn't realize he was the head and running it. I thought he was still seeking other options. But if Xavier's got it, then it makes sense. He's comfortable. They've been living together for how long? They've got that bond or connection and understanding of one another. So, you know, we just got to see. I think we're going to see a very brutal, physical Dillian Whyte. If he boxes how we like to see him boxing, if he's going for the knockout, ultimately, I think he needs to go for the knockout in order to get not that respect, because he came off the back of a kind of fight where he wasn't in the best shape due to all this kind of allegations about the drugs and whatnot. So yeah, just looking for Dillian Whyte to come and show 2020 that he's the man and that he could deliver what he's going to deliver. And then that just, if he knocks out Povetkin, it's like, look, I've knocked him out. AJ, you've knocked him out. You know, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for whoever, anyone. Like he says, maximum violence. Anyone can get it.
And you know, big shout out, because I mean, you said that. Big shout out to Chris Congo. He's got a huge opportunity fighting on the undercard.
Coming up finally.
So yeah, hopefully we get him back on the platform before. So make sure, guys, you tune and check that out. But yeah, the plan for me I would say is, I think you're right. Maximum violence. I think it goes in there. Destructive performance against Povetkin, and then see what happens. I think that's the key thing, right? He's got patience is probably one thing he's done a lot of. If I'm being honest and fair to him, but I think he's got to just kind of see what happens next. So yeah, moving on. Last weekend's fight, Matchroom Square Gardens. I think we've got to talk about really like the headlining fight. I think it's fair to say it delivered in terms of excitement, in terms of quality.
100%.
I think the negative
was strong this first week, but it was good.
But I think I'm going to say a little bit of the negative, not even from the performance, but I think even as a fan, I don't know who it is that makes this recommendation, because I'm assuming it's a very high body. But I think the 2 minute needs to be looked at. I think the finances needs to be looked at. And I think actually this type of a concept probably might generate more money in the female boxing game because of the type of venue that you're using. You don't need to maybe have to make it a big pay-per-view at an O2 and all of the side expenses. But yeah, I think my question to you is the 2 minute rounds. I mean, does that still throw you when you're watching a good fight and then all of a sudden you're like, oh snap, the fight's over?
Not necessarily, you know. 2 minutes has always historically been in the women's game, you know. It hasn't not been. It's always been 2 minutes. But you can't, so when you look at women's boxing, I don't look at it as if I'd look at men's boxing, you know. I look at it completely different and from a different perspective and a different angle. I look at, even though you should technically look at it from the same, and I get that, and this is me not saying anything controversial, but naturally the time's different. So you look at the fights, like for me, I look at Katie Taylor's fights quite often. And it's a different kind of, it's entertaining, but it's a different kind of entertainment I feel that I get when I watch that. But ultimately, if they're screaming for 3 minutes more, not screaming, but if the public are demanding 3 minutes more, then you know, ultimately it should be. I mean, if the fighters are happy and all the people within the stakeholders and the women's boxing, I'd like to know the reason why and the reasoning behind why the bit, nationally in the British Boxing Board of Control put it at 2 minutes. If I hear their reasoning, it would be good to understand. If it's not really a reason, then I don't see why not. They shouldn't increase it to 3 minutes. But ultimately, it's women's boxing is at a stage where it is growing. Whether it's at risk of overtaking men's boxing, I don't know as of yet, as Eddie pointed out. But I think it's an exciting time for women's boxing. There's a lot of fights to go up for grabs, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we've got it. It's good. The fight was good. Natasha Jonas, did she win? Like I always say, with these kind of 50-50 fights, you've got to kind of look at a few things. You've got to look at from a judge's perspective. You're looking at things as, okay, who's more active, who's more busy, who's throwing shots. They were kind of equal in that sense in terms of throwing shots. But if I'm playing devil's advocate and we're looking, or my eye as a judge is Jonas might have stood out to me because she flew the more fluid punches. Her shots were more impactful. But in terms of just work rate, I don't really know. It was kind of equal. But also, Harper was throwing some good shots as well. She wasn't just taking anything there. You know, she was completely fighting back and doing what she needs to do. So ultimately, I feel the draw is a fair result, but on any given day, it could have swung either way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think, it wasn't really one of those fights where it's a draw, and you felt that the champion got saved or something.
Yeah,
that sort of like narrative. It was a very close fight. I think as boxing hardcore fans who probably watched that event, I would also say the 2 minutes kind of flips you because as much as you're judging it, it's like, I think, like you said, it's very 50-50. Some of the rounds were like 1 minute Harper, 1 minute Jonas, like split down, and they had contrasting styles, so you could literally see when one was gaining the upper end and when the other was. So yeah, I think the draws would be fair. I think we get to see the rematch. My fear is Jonas going to be able to kind of raise the bar above what she did that on Saturday. We know technically she's got the foundational skills, but that's where I'm a bit like, is she going to be able to go to the next level? Because that's what's going to be required, similar to Delphine Pearson against Katie Taylor. Now, granted, Pearson is more than 18 months older, a year older, and on the basis of, I think she's had a few injuries, but we'll see. We'll see. But I thought it was a good card. I think other than that, who will stand out for you? I mean, Chris Williams-Smith, I know there was a lot of noise about him. I thought he looked okay. I do think that reactor fight, it should happen. I think that'll be a good domestic clash, especially with current climate.
No, definitely. It's looking forward to it. We'll see what happens, and then we'll see the developments of it. But I wouldn't pay too much mind to it. But it's just something to look at and to see. Obviously, people have kicked up quite a fuss about why it's been. So if the ball then and they've got good reasonable grounds for it, then fine. If they haven't, then change it. It's not
simple as that.
I don't think it's that difficult. Talk to me. Let's talk about who is going to talk about now.
I mean, obviously we've got to start with Warren, man. Warren laid his cards on the table, bro.
Yeah. What do you think? I think a lot of people I've had mixed reviews about this. I don't think it's that bad. I think it was natural, it was inevitable, it was always going to happen. We've posted about what would a Box Nation, what Frank Warren promotion Matchroom card look like, and everyone's about it. So it's not absurd. It's not something out the blue. It's not. I can understand why they say it's desperate because obviously his show on BT had an average of a few thousand viewers, which was shocking, and obviously BT aren't going to be too happy with that. So his ideas to kind of ways in which they can collaborate. As a businessman, he reached out to Eddie and said, "Look, let's work." Eddie said, "Yeah, you mean I'll have a chat." This makes you believe that all the stuff that these lot say is all bullshit, as in behind closed doors. Not that they're friendly, but they know when business is to get done because Eddie knows that's.
Sorry, bro. I gotta say, I think in a few of the interviews, I feel like you can see. I don't want to say groveling because that's too strong, but I feel like you can see that he doesn't need this as much as Warren needs it, and I think he's gonna make that not clear. But I think he's gonna let off some shots and just be like, "Listen, like it's Matchroom, like we're X, we're Z." You know what I mean? and these guys are operating at him, so it's a leg up. Like I think he's clearly going to try and drop those kind of bombs. But I think he has to be careful because I think, you know, like you said, I think there are some good matchups. I think we've spoken about Warren Stable over the past. I said, while, you know, Yard, Fury, Dubois, the big draws, it's not a bad stable quality-wise. There is some talent there, you know. Again, add to that Joyce, Dennis McCann, Hamza Shiraz. So you see that his stable builds.
Yeah, you see that Hamza Shiraz versus Ted Cheeseman. I think he's him out. I think
that's a big fight.
I think Hamza does him in.
Yeah,
Hamza, by the way, but yeah, Hamza's serious. I think Hamza does him.
Oh no, I know Hamza's serious, bro. But I think a knockout would be good.
I don't know about a knockout. I reckon the decision. But
yeah,
I think Hamza. Ted's tough. I don't think Ted's been dropped.
No,
I don't think.
I'll be honest. I can't confirm on that. But yeah, I think that'd be a great fight. I mean, you're right. I think if you look at the skill set on that, and that's the thing I wanted to talk to you about. That I mean, you look at the skill set on show there. I think that's like it's trust me. I think wrongly, Cheeseman may be the favorite, but I think amongst boxing heads, I think you're probably right. I think Shiraz Hamza would probably be like
way more technical. You know
what?
The
height, the reach,
all of that. If Cheeseman does all of that, Hamza would eat him for breakfast.
You can't follow him around the ring. But like when we look at the total fights, and I'm not going to list them all now, but realistically, two questions really. Do you think they will even get together and make this happen? And how many of those fights do you think would happen?
I think maybe, I reckon a handful. I reckon enough to make a nice undercard of the main event.
Okay. 4?
4 maybe.
Nine fights.
Yeah, what's the yard part that aside? Because I don't think that's happening unless these guys are at world level. And rightly so, makes sense. Unless the money's big enough. I don't think that's the case. Those guys ultimately, not that they're friendly, but they're I would say they're friendly actually. Let's say they're friendly. They know each other. They come up the rankings together. They know of each other. I feel that in order for them to fight, it's going to have to be some serious cheese.
Yeah.
And it's going to have to be, at a stage where these guys want to put everything on the line, like a unification. Like there's enough space in that light heavyweight division for both of them to get both world titles, for them to face off each other, Yeah. I might think they could be a light heavyweight.
There's a lot of sharks as well.
No, of course, there's enough. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if Callum Saladin or Yard goes into a WBC Super Series for light heavyweights or something. It wouldn't surprise me at all if something like that happened.
I mean, so talk to me about Liam Williams versus Andrade.
Liam Williams versus Andrade.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that attractive. I mean, Liam Williams is just trying to build up his name at the moment, man. He's without Eubank, talking smack about everybody. He's ready. He wants to fight. He wants to get it. So I need to see a bit more of Liam Williams. I've seen a bit about him. I've heard a few things in the gym. He's a good technical fighter. He's kind of not. He's not a fancy fighter, but just gets the job done. Similar to like a Warrington. People have compared him in terms of style, stylistic
energy that they both have.
Yeah. Stylistically, even compared to Warrington. But ultimately, I just need to see a bit more of Liam and do a little analysis on him and then make a judgment. But ultimately, I just need to see more of him. Also, Dubois versus who is it? Dubois
Dillian Whyte.
See, Dillian Whyte. It's not worth Dillian Whyte's time.
That's not going to happen.
It's not worth his time.
Yeah.
If he was managing Dillian, even though he's self-managed, even Dillian would be like, what are you talking about? He'll be like, why are you insulting me, comparing me to this kid?
I mean, it's not even a fight that you would really say you want to see, if we're being honest.
If he gets posturous and emphatically, I could see that. But I can't see. I could see Dubois potentially knocking out Joyce, but it's not a solid. He needs to just get through that fight.
I'll be honest. I mean, I think for me, a good Dubois performance, I'm going to be honest, is a late stoppage of Joyce, because he gets rounds at that level, and then he shows he carries the power later on in the fight to knock a good Joyce's class fighter out. I think if he got a first round knockout or whatever, I don't think that prepares you for what Dillian Whyte brings. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I can't see why Dillian would take that. I think that one.
Well, yeah, that one that I just don't even want to pay too much mind to. They were saying about Chisora and Joe Joyce. Listen, Chisora is a smart man.
But he's got Usyk again. Part that I know he's cut you. But I would have said, what about Gorman versus Allen? I think again that's more realistic. Not a great.
Gorman Allen. That's an easy fight because at the end of the day, not that Dave Allen takes peanuts, but he doesn't really seem like he's actually. To be fair, he sells a lot of tickets, man.
I was going to say he sells tickets, so he gets paid, man.
he sells a lot of tickets. To be fair, I'll take that back because back in the day, he fought. I remember he done that when he was talking about his depression and everything and how he was spending and having a gambling addiction. He was talking about how when he fought Ortiz or something, he took peanuts to fight. Like absolutely, he took absolute peanuts, like in the low thousands, to fight Ortiz. So, it just went. But he's gone on from leaps and bounds since then. Have improved and gained the public eye and all that sort of stuff, especially since that win against that knockout against Lucas Brown. He split with Darren Barker now, hasn't he? So it's going to be interesting to see what opportunity for him. But I think he does Gorman in. I don't think Gorman's at the level yet. Gorman's not at the level yet to be able to fight with Dave Allen just yet. He's just come from a big loss against. He needs to rebuild, regroup, learn, lick it, take his licks, and kind of move on from that basis. But no, it's good. It's gonna be interesting. I don't think it's a desperate move from Warren. I think it's a smart move, but it does look a bit desperate considering how these guys have been going back and forth, and one's had to conform in. And Eddie's a guy that was not kicking man while he's down. Adam says shout out to Adam. He says he was groving. This Frank Warren's an OG. He's been in the game for a long time. He's looking to evolve. He's not as as with the times as Eddie, and he's reaching out to him. So shout out to Tito. Is Yard still a big draw though? Yard is a massive draw. Yard is an amazing draw. Like I feel he's grown himself to the level where he is now respected as a fighter. His credentials were once questioned when he went to Russia, and when he had Kovalev on ropes, he gained his respect. Just remember after that fight in Russia, Kovalev is an arrogant guy. He went up to Yard and was like, "You are the real deal." Yard went to Yard and said, "You're the real deal." So let's not forget that. But ultimately, we just got to see. And shout out to Anam, though. I think Dubois, Dillian Whyte's a good fight, but Dillian Whyte don't need a Dubois. Dubois needs Dillian Whyte. I don't know about you, bro. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I would agree. Like I said, it's all about Dubois' performance, how he was. If he beats Joyce and how he beats Joyce, then but I think Dillian Whyte's not going to take that. If you're on the cusp of Fury or the winner of Fury Joshua, you know what I mean?
100%. I feel like I'm looking forward to on that undercard on August 22nd. I'm looking forward to our guy Congo versus Clay. I feel if Congo wins that, I think he's then going to start calling out all these guys on All Smoke, and they'll be like, Conor Ben, you what? You want it? Let's have it. That's what I want because I feel like someone like a Chris Congo, technically good. I don't know about his ticket sales, but I feel like under the right promotional banner, he can really build himself up. And I feel once he does the business on Clay, I feel that Eddie's going to take a different look to him. I feel that Eddie's going to be like, this kid's a star and really invest time into him because Congo is a real talent, man. Real talent.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree with you on that. So I think one of the things we were going to pick up, I guess, really is in news or in rumors. There's rumors of Terence Crawford taking on Kell Brook. What's your thoughts on that?
Terence Crawford taking on Kell Brook. I don't know why Crawford would do that. Crawford don't really need him, I don't think Crawford needs him. But Kell Brook, he's got to get down to 147 again, no?
Yeah.
Didn't he struggle at that 147? The thing is, the money must be sweet. I know we always keep talking about money, but the check must be good for Kell to consider that because ultimately, you lost your last two fights, you struggled to make weight. Your last back-to-back, you struggled to make weights. and both times you lost your ice. You popped the first and the second eye socket. So you need to really consider. What you're doing here and how you're doing things. But Eddie obviously feels that it's a good fight. I don't think Kell's winning that. I think Crawford makes a mockery of Kell Brook. I think he does it within the first 5 rounds.
Well, I mean, for me, I totally agree with you. I think the weight, number one, how he's going to cope with that, I think that's going to be more than interesting. Because I think I say rumors, but I swear he put a comment out saying the last time he fought at 147, his eyeballs were so dry they had to drop like liquids just to kind of like replenish the water. That's how much he drained himself. And if we're being honest, whenever he looks so drained, he's just a shell. He's a shell of himself. So yeah, I personally don't want to see him at 147. Sorry, but I think it's a name, and in terms of and I think the money's there. I will say though, from a Crawford's perspective, you got to ask yourself: has he moved forward since he fought Khan? Because Khan is a bigger name than Brook, in my opinion. And the last guy he fought, Mean Machine Kavis, is unknown. So since he's fought Brook, Khan, yes, he beat him, which was expected. Has he stepped up in that 147? And if he isn't, because he's not getting opportunities, what does he need to do?
Yeah, no, I understand that. That makes sense. I agree with you on that standpoint. I just think, I don't know. I just think Kell, you're making such good progress as that light middle or light Walter, that light middleweight in that category. I thought there was fights for him domestically. Ultimately, the Khan fight isn't happening, so I think he's looking to go out with a bang. But I thought there was some good fights for him, including Liam Smith. That was a good fight. I thought there were some other good fights out there for him, but ultimately he doesn't want to. Kelpert doesn't exactly want to do that. But I think if he, depending on how he loses this fight, I think this is his last fight. I think he's done.
I mean, I think you can see from a monetary value, like you can see what Brook does bring. Obviously, he's known in the US for that Porter win, and I think for Crawford, it's an opponent. I guess that he can get that will help. Eyeballs to the broadcast. But I'm a bit like,
he's got nothing to lose from he has got a lot to lose in terms of his health, but from a boxing standpoint, he hasn't got much to lose. If anything, especially if it's overseas in the US, he probably might have the luck. He might have luck on his side with him. But, Crawford's got to lose. He's got the reputation and everything. If he loses, the way Errol Spence and all these guys are going to be clowning him, bro.
Yeah, man. But listen, bro, let's it's 8 o'clock, or we just gone 8. Let's go over to the lines. We're gonna go to, I want to say, I'm pretty certain it's Uncle Mr. Boxing Knowledge. I'm gonna say Uncle Boxing Knowledge. Hi.
Hey, hi guys.
How you doing, Uncle?
Hey,
hello.
Sam, I've been calling me during the lockdown.
That's
No.
Family politics.
I've been speaking to coach, but you've been neglecting me.
Yeah. We're all good.
So,
what's on your mind?
Where do we start, guys? It's good that boxing's back on.
Yeah.
All the things you've been discussing. So, what do you want me to talk about? What do you want me to
It's up to you. Whatever you want to speak about.
Let's talk Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn.
Oh, where do we start? When I saw the story, I thought someone was taking a mickey. I think it's a good idea in principle, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. I'd love to see some of those contests, particularly at light heavyweight. Joshua Buaxi and Anthony Yad. I personally think I'd favor Buaxi in that, but I feel Yad lost a great opportunity against Kovalev because, as we found out, Kovalev was actually there for the taking.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the one that really stands out for me. I don't see Dubois and Whyte happening anytime soon, because if Whyte is Povetkin, his next fight really has to be for the world title. And I have my doubts as to whether Dubois is actually going to be Joe Joyce, as you know.
Yeah.
In terms of what I'm very excited about, I think that my favorite fighters are going to be fighting in a few months' time. It's been announced. That's the truth. Errol Spence Jr. and Danny Garcia. And my view is that for Errol Spence to be taking such a tough contest in his first fight after the accident tells me that he's pretty confident, and they're pretty confident that all's well with him. Because, as you know, Danny Garcia is a tough fight for anybody when you're in the best of health. Yeah?
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
How do you guys see that going?
I have to be honest and say I'd still back Spence, but I guess I think the best way to sum it up for me would be I still back Errol Spence to win that fight, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got caught by Garcia, because I think Garcia's right hand is underrated, just generally in the boxing world. I think he is a tough puncher, and he's got, when we say speed, it's the speed linked with the accuracy. But I think it's going to be, with the timing. We're going to see how Errol responds to punches.
Yeah, good point. One thing Garcia has got is great timing, and he's very tough as well.
Yeah.
I think Sam had mentioned before that he starts slowly, but he's the kind of guy who, the longer the fight goes on, the better he is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a Puerto Rican thing. Remember when Felix Trinidad used to get put on the deck in the early parts of his fights?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember someone said to me that they just wished before the fight starts, someone in his changing room, like his father, decked him and put him on the canvas, put him on the floor in the changing rooms before the fight started, so he'd be warmed up by the time the fight starts. Also, another interesting thing is this Mike Tyson, Roy Jones exhibition.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's been postponed, right?
Yeah, so I there's a part of me that which of course I'm going to watch it, but I kind of wish it wasn't happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it'll be interesting.
I don't blame you. So listen, I've got a last question before we move on to the next caller. From your point of view, we've seen the Matchroom schedule so far. How would you rate it out of, let's say, 10?
It's all a bit strange to me because let me give it a 7 or 8 out of 10. But there haven't been what I would call matchups that I'm really, like at the absolute world class level. Fight. Even Dillian Whyte against Povetkin, that they're making out as if it's a great fight. It is what it is. We're in a pandemic, and I take off my hat to Matchroom and Eddie Head. But if Dillian Whyte has serious aspirations of winning the world title, he should be able to handle Povetkin easily at this stage of his Povetkin's career. I think it's about 40 now. And personally, I thought Povetkin lost to Michael Hunter in Saudi Arabia on the Joshua undercard.
Yeah.
That's my, that's my view. But I'll say, look, thank you, Matchroom. Thank you for all sports, Sky. Even though there are no crowds, the atmosphere is a bit different. Let's commend all the fighters. It's not been easy, but I hope at some stage we can let crowds back, even if it's a limited number of crowds, socially distanced, to create more of an atmosphere in boxing and other sporting events.
Definitely. All right. So listen, Uncle, thank you very much for calling. Good to get you guys. Good to get you back on. It's been a minute, but yeah, the boxing's back. So Raps on TV is back. So appreciate the time as always. Thank you.
Okay,
cheers. Thanks.
Okay.
Cheers. All right. Just going out to 446. 446. Hello.
Yes, boys. How you doing?
Yes. Is that Inam?
It's Inam, bro.
Yes.
Yeah.
How you doing, man? Appreciate the support.
We had the UFC back a few weeks ago. Then we had the fight camp come back 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And now we've got Raps on TV back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, man. Come on.
It's like the end of the coronavirus era, isn't it? Yeah. The world is fun.
Better days, bro. Better days.
Yeah.
But I want to say thank you to you guys as well, man. You know what I mean? You're still putting that effort in. The world slowed down, but you guys are still making that effort. I mean, to keep people entertained. So I want to say thank you.
No, appreciate that. So what's on your mind? What's on your mind with the boxing world?
So I want to talk about Terence Crawford.
Yeah.
I have to say, guys, like, he was offered a Porter fight, and when he rejected that, I was quite disappointed. Because I've been bigging this guy up. In social media, there's always, these debates happen, and there's always Lomachenko, Crawford, yeah? And, I was always like on the Crawford side, right? When he saw I rejected the Porter fight, for me it was like, he was almost like a duck, yeah? And I can see what Al Haymon and the guys were doing. They were like, listen, we're not going to just give you Mark Errol, right? Because if say he lost to Errol, right, he loses influence, right? Because of Al Haymon controlling the welterweight division, to Sandy Pop out and control the welterweight division. So Al Haymon's perspective, like, why am I going to do that?
Yeah, if he lost to Crawford,
why am I going to do that? Yeah, so I said, at least fight these guys better than see what you're about, right? So they didn't take the Porter fight, yeah, and that was that, right? So if we're going to fight any PBC fighters besides Errol, who else is there? Cowboy was the only option, man, and this is something like you can see from like miles away. There's no one else.
Yeah.
There's no other figure for one fighter that can fight. Everyone is in PBC. Yeah, Ugas, Porter, Danny Garcia, Aaron Spencer, Yeah, so that's it. That's the position of Terence Crawford.
Yeah. I mean, what does he do from your perspective? I asked the question: has he stepped back, given that he's fighting Crawford, he's fighting Brook potentially, and over a year ago he fought Amir Khan? Is that real progress? Fighting Brook, 18 months down the line.
I don't think so. Because when he fought Khan was completely shocked. I mean, that was embarrassing, man. I mean, that fight was. People were pissed, and I don't blame them. Yeah. So Khan was completely shocked. Crawford, I don't really know if he's shot or not. I mean, I won't say he's shot. He's definitely not going to be performing at the high levels. Yeah, his previous fight was at super welterweight, 154 pounds. Yeah. All right, so I don't know, how he's going to make it back to 147. If he does, he's obviously going to drop weight again. The thing is, Kelvin is still a decent name, right? If they have the fight in the UK, it will be a good pay-per-view fight, in my opinion, and people will pay for that fight.
That's true.
And her, the way he sells fights, there's always going to be the bugs out there going like, you know what, Kelvin can do it, he can do it, and it will sell.
Yeah.
But no, to answer your question, it's not a step forward
from
the Khan fight. It's probably on that same level, two-shot fighters.
Yeah, all right. I mean, last point, before we move on to the next caller, last point, anything you want to say?
Yeah, the whole Warren Hearn thing. I mean, I thought it was good for Warren to put his card on the table like that. There's some decent fights, man, that he's proposed, and I don't agree that they're undercard fights, man. Some of them are the main fight itself. The Dubai fight is the main fight. Whyte Yard is there. I mean, the Fury and Joshua obviously is like a really super fight, you know. So I think they should definitely look at it. You know, there's definitely scope there for them to work together. You know, and I hope they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit that. You do make a good point in terms of the undercard. From my understanding, listening to Frank Warren, he was kind of saying, you know, let's just put a couple on one show. So I think I get the impression that he wants to try and make it a stacked card. I will say though, how realistic is it? And that's Sam, I'll let you ask the question.
I don't think so, man. I mean, I was thinking about this stuff. There's no way they can have those fighters all in one card. They won't be able to play them.
Yeah.
That's what his business done.
So, you know, the way it would work probably financially is like they would have like the Whyte in the yard as one major card, and then fill up with some undercard fighters. That would be like one show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't have like something like Yard and Whyte, and then on the same one you have like Whyte. It's going to be far. Yeah. They won't generate enough money to pay these guys, you know, for what they want these days.
Yeah. Sam, what was you saying?
No, I was saying that, of course, I don't think it will be on one card. I think if it is one card, I think Warren is shooting himself in the foot in that sense, mate.
Yeah.
Fully on the basis that that's his last kind of straw in terms of building up his kind of domestic fight. So anything up there, if they did that on the day, what more has Warren got to kind of build momentum and push on from there? I think if they drip feed it in and infuse it into the card occasionally, then that's fine, and maybe do a kind of part exchange thing where some of Eddie's fighters come on to box on BT. He's been quite open about that. So I think it would be good for those guys to meet up and hash their kind of to stop all their kind of Twitter spats and really get down to the business, because ultimately it's for boxing and the fans. So and I think that's the best way for Warren to still be relevant is to work in conjunction with Hearn and vice versa, and get some of his guys on their cards and spread the love that way, because there's enough to go around, as Eddie said.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, right, I mean, Warren is definitely still relevant, man, and like, I can see in the foreseeable future, DAZN going to have major problems, right, because, you know, they've committed to these contractual obligations, like massive contractual obligations. I used to run the numbers in my head all the time, yeah, like, you know, it's something like £9 subscription per month, and I just have to subscribe to them and just take Canelo, right, you know, it's just a fraud model in my eyes. And all we can see now, they've lost all the gate money. So I can see in 6, 7, even a year's time, they're going to have major problems. If they have major problems, that means they're actually down the US, right? How are they going to fund their US operations?
Yeah.
The match was back in the UK. He's going to work with Warren, generating these fights. You know?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting points that you make there. So listen, now, appreciate you calling in as usual.
Thank you, brother.
So enjoy it, and then good to speak to you. And we're back every Tuesday now. Take care.
Yeah, man. All right, bye. See you
next week.
Cheers, man.
Cheers,
Bye.
thanks. Bye. We're going out to 488.
488.
488. Hello.
How's it going, Kojo? It's Dave Joe, our boxing voice.
Yes. What's going on, brother? You good?
Yeah, good, man. Good.
Good. Next time we did.
Boxing's back.
Exactly. Next time we've got to get you on a live with us for sure.
100% when I'm down that neck of the woods, COVID-free. I'm not that I've got COVID. The restrictions are driving down and stuff. It's been a nightmare.
Yeah. How have you been, though, man? I mean, before we talk boxing, you've been busy. Got to shout you out. You've been hooking me up with a few of the interviews. So the guys that would have seen the Ellie Hopkins, a lot of Asker's guys, Mark. Yeah, you've been hooking me up on that sense. JK as well. You put me in touch with that team. So how you been keeping busy during this lockdown?
Yeah, busy as busy can be. I mean, trying to get as many interviews in for the boxing voice as possible. So started off with Dean Whyte, great guys always to interview. Joe Joyce. I think a couple of weeks ago we sent someone down to Peacock, so we got to speak to Daniel Dubois. Nice. Been keeping really busy, mate. To be fair, it's been productive, but also at the same time learned a lot about working remotely, as you guys have as well.
Yeah, exactly. How are you finding that kind of like catching up with the boxers, matching schedules to get the interviews and things like that?
I think, to be fair, on the main, most sort of publicists and managers have been absolutely wonderful to work with. I mean, we've always had to reschedule or say, look, can you do a different date? No one's been, awkward or anything like that. They understand the restraints. And it's built some really good links over it as well, including Al Fiesta, who's been doing cold rules over in
Russia.
in Belarus. So I've met some wonderful people during this way. It's just a shame that we're not face to face.
Yeah.
In the traditional sense.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. And what's your thoughts? Like you said, you started off. You said boxing's back.
Yeah, boxing's back. I mean, I've got to give it to Eddie Hearn and Matchroom with the garden. I mean, you know, it was out there. You know, when you heard about it, you think, well, how are they going to pull this off? It literally in his backyard. But I've been happy with it, maybe because we've been starved of the sport for so long. And you know, I've been watching it. Normally, I wouldn't have watched, I'll be honest with you, Felix Cash versus Jason Wellborn this week if it was on a normal card.
Yeah.
But I am going to be watching it, surprisingly, because my sort of thing is, as well, we've been speaking to Denzel Bentley quite a lot for us. And, you know, that's fine. That would be great as well. Felix Cash versus Denzel Bentley, you know, with this whole thing with Frank Warren versus Eddie Hearn, kind of like DC versus Marvel. I enjoyed the sort of call out. It was good.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's loads of talent there, and I think promoters and managers have been thinking about how can they captivate the audience with a limited sort of resources. There's no gate, so how do we captivate the audience? But so far, I think, you know, it's been going okay. I think with the early sort of fights that came out from Top Rank and Bob Arum, who was the opening show? Was it? Wasn't Gervonta Davis?
No, it was Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson for Top Rank.
Yeah. Earlier.
Yeah, it seemed a bit lackluster, if I'm being honest. Seemed like Shakur just bowled him over. But ever since then, it's been okay. To be fair, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
Oh. Dev, talk to me. What do you think of the collaboration with? That's the big thing today with Matchroom and Frank Warren Promotion / Queensbury. Is it desperate? Is it not? What's your thoughts?
I mean, Frank Warren is a you've alluded to it. I think you said he's an OG. He's been in the game for such a long time. He knows exactly what he's doing. Yeah. The fighters on Frank Warren's stable are some very, very talented guys. I mean, Hamza Shiraz, Ben,
unbelievable.
Joyce, Fury is there in some capacity as well. So he's not desperate at all. He's saying, look, this is what we've got. Eddie, you've got a fantastic stable as well. Let's get together. I mean, when I saw the poster, it was pre-planned. It wasn't like we just thought of this and saying, let's just push this out on a Friday. Yeah. No way is it desperate. I think the call out to say, look, the fans are wanting this. Let's make it happen. I think they're good fights if they do be pulled off, to be fair. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on it? Do you think it's a case of desperation, or would you like to see it?
No, it's absolutely not a case of desperation. I think it's just smart business and surviving when you need to survive. I don't think it's desperate. I think it's just making, not even surviving, I'll take that word back. It's just making smart adjustments. You know, BT and his promotional outfit aren't with the times. Eddie Hearn's is. You use Eddie Hearn's talent and guys in respect of, you know, you're going to pay them a lot more to be on your platform, but you're going to have the clout of Matchroom and Eddie Hearn with you. So it's a win-win.
100%. I mean, if you take, for example, Super Welterweight, take Hamza Shiraz versus Sam Eggington, I would want to watch that because it's already, I'm thinking about it, and I'll be thinking, hang on, experience versus youth, even though they're not that old compared to each other. Yeah. Even though, you know, on paper, Chisora versus Joyce, people might be thinking, hang on, who's at the tail end of the career, even though Joyce has only had 11 fights, I think. So it's intriguing. These fights are intriguing fights. It's a smart business move. It's something that we want to watch. I mean, a fight that, you know, I think that's getting sort of at the moment, I think is going to be a fantastic fight as well, is what's happening over in Australia at the moment as well. Jeff Horn versus Tim Tszyu. That fight is going to, I think that's a sleeper fight as well. If you haven't heard of Tim Tszyu, son of Costa, that fight is going to be absolutely amazing when it happens as well. Yeah. So many fights are happening at the moment, and you know, fights like this will be missed. But Frank Warren is leading up to the crescendo of Joyce versus Dubois. Joyce has done his bit by, you know, beating Whyte, wasn't it? And Dubois just needs to do his part, and it's all leading up to this fantastic event. So I'm so far, maybe because I've been starved of it for such a long time. I mean, I searched through my bag today, and I found the last fight ticket that I've actually covered live, which was over in Sheffield, Saturday the 8th of February. I want these days back, to be fair, as you guys do.
Exactly. No, well said. Well said. So listen, appreciate appreciate you calling in, Dev, as well. Listen, like I said, we'll speak during the week, and then we'll try and get you on for next week. Now that there's a bit more bigger cards coming, definitely love to start getting your thoughts on Errol Spence versus Garcia, how the Wilder, Fury, and Dillian Whyte situation is going to play out. So, listen, thanks for your time as always.
Cheers, bro. Cheers, Dev.
Bro. Cheers, thank you. Yes, thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, man, good callers as always. Sharing their knowledge, showing what their thoughts are on the boxing world. Good to speak to them as well. It's been a while since we've done a show, so and got the callers in. So for those of you that don't know that it's the first time watching us, this is what we do at Raps on TV. Essentially, we talk boxing, and then we get people to call in and give us their opinions. You see the number on the screen. Do not forget to hit that like button or subscribe button, please. It costs you nothing, but makes us millionaires. And Sam over there sitting like a billionaire, so he's but yeah, no. So it's definitely been good. So Sam, listen, before we sign out, anything on your mind you want to talk about within the boxing game?
Not really. Just kind of keep locked in. There's a lot more stuff to develop. There's a lot more fights to be going on. There's a lot more things that's going to be happening in the world. So just keep share, subscribe on the platform.
And guys, look out what me and Sam are going to do. We're going to do a little bit of competition. Like, it's all been a bit nice because of this whole lockdown stuff, but we're going to do a competition. So we're going to start with this card, actually. We're going to try and make predictions for the fights. We'll do a little prediction show. So make sure you look out for that. But like I said, share, subscribe to whatever platform you find us on. That's Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
Yeah.
Guys, do appreciate all the love. And we're going to be out.